Hello, this is Marxist, and this is episode 2, part 2 of my Learning from the Classics series. For review, we'll be watching Mix-Up vs. Quantic on CP Granary from ESCA's Season 10 LAN. If you're looking for the first part or other episodes of this series, I'll have a little clicky link eventually at some point, Valve time. That'll take you to the other episodes, so you can watch that. I'm going to go through the game by looking at important situations and then sort of analyzing them. So without further ado, we'll get into this. The first thing we'll look at in this video is Banny, the man himself, at mid, which will be the second mid fight of the game with the score 1-0 for Quantic. So I'm going to show the whole rollout here, and we'll talk about it a little bit as we go. He gets a maximal buff, but he takes fall damage the first time. Skips the health pack, which is fine for speed, and then takes fall damage here too. Now, if Platt had gone left and also rolled out quicker or as quickly as Banny, he'd be dead right now, and that would be bad for mid. He knows Platt's garage because he hasn't seen him anywhere else, and he's just trying to buy space on the point and damage the people that are on the crates, if at all possible. He's essentially out of ammo now, so he's kind of worthless for the purposes of the mid fight. And Harblue's the only survivor on Mix-Up. He's being chased by Sizer, but Sizer will not get him. So what we saw there was a pretty low quality rollout that still manages to turn out okay, because Platt goes the slower route of going through garage, and Banny manages to lock him out more or less. I imagine a soldier played a pretty big role in that as well. He also manages to hit a scout early with a sticky, which, if you're playing scout, it tends to really take you out of the fight if you get knocked down to 90 health right at the start. And it also helps me make a point about Granary mid in general, in that usually, even if you're dealing with demos as high profile as Banny in this case, they're not the most effective class on Granary mid, and a lot of newer teams really suffer from over-focusing the demo on Granary, because Banny really didn't do all that much as far as getting the kills or even really doing all that much damage. He was scary, sure, and that affected Mix-Up's positioning, but he really didn't accomplish very much. So it was the rest of the team that did, and partly because everybody stared at Banny the whole mid, the rest of them were able to do what they needed to do. Now, as far as repercussions for this, Harblu has Uber and survives. He is not killed by Sizer, who's chasing him. So that gives Mix-Up Uber with which to retake mid at a later date, because they're going to have massive Uber advantage over CB. In the second situation, we'll be watching TLR take an Uber into mid, with the Uber advantage that Harblu got due to surviving mid. We'll watch TLR go through the little window here, which is some way to get in. However, Harblu gets hit twice by spam rockets. He has 30 health, so he has to pop. It's an advantage push, so popping really early isn't a big deal. But then TLR gets a call that the demo, Banny, is coming out up top. He goes down, but the damage is done by Enigma and Moose. And we'll just watch Relic clean this up here. And that's a wipe. So while we saw a really good series of events there for TLR when he splashes Banny off of the catwalk and then shotguns him out of the sky, what happened there was really a critical error from Quantic. Mix-Up's Uber was, for all intents and purposes, awful. TLR's not able to really get to anybody. Banny surfs away from the only rocket that TLR really manages to do effective damage with, because the only other damage he does with his Uber is he hits the 300 health pocket. So they did what they wanted to do when you defend mid without Uber, is pop them as soon as humanly possible. They come back in far too early, and Mackie doesn't make any attempt whatsoever to get out. So Mackie goes down, and then you see Banny and the combo push back in with player disadvantage and get obliterated by Mix-Up, who is on the point and has superior positioning. They would have been far, far better off to just stand back in yard and wait on their Uber and then take their chances there. In the third situation, we'll watch Mix-Up push last with Crit's advantage. The way that they got this Crit's advantage is that after the last fight, Harblu died quite a bit earlier and got the forward spawn, which causes him to spawn much faster than CB, so he goes crit so as to maximize the Uber advantage that he has. By the time Mix-Up pushes, Quantic isn't really anywhere close to getting Uber. We're going to see the crits from Platinum's perspective because the Demo Man and Crits are the best friends in the world. He goes straight for that scout and misses, can't find anybody else. CB's Uber's building all the time. Laser beams kill Sizer. Moose runs for the point. Can't do it. And now we're going to kind of just watch as things rush in here. Uber comes out from CB. And then Mix-Up relentlessly tries to get on the point, but they can't do it. What you saw there is part of the inherent risk of using Kritzkrieg. Sometimes targets aren't going to present themselves, and sometimes you're going to miss all your shots, and then you're basically screwed. The reason that Mix-Up throws players at the point so virulently is it denies Quantic the ability to quickly pressure second, which gives Mix-Up more time to get its forward spawns in, which spawn rather close there in right yard. So Mix-Up may still be able to contest second really effectively. They're also still going to have crits advantage because they popped long before CB did. So after the crits went awry, Mix-Up had two objectives. Try to win the round, and B, pop CB's Uber or kill him so that they maintain that advantage that they have with the crits. They managed to do that, and then they can suicide more people on the point because of the quick spawn times. Really only Relic isn't going to be able to come up before Quantic could ever cap second. Plus, Platinum wisely survives. He doesn't participate in that at all, the suiciding for CB and the point, because he knows the Demo Man's a pretty good class, especially defending, so he and Harblu will probably significantly delay the capping of second, along with the forward spawns, and they're going to get a second try at it. For our fourth situation, we're going to watch Banny wade into the second point and also make a broader point about medic play. Here we see Banny pushing into second, and he's spamming at Plat, and then Harb gets caught in the stickies and dies, which is a huge disaster for Mix-Up. And now they are down Relic and Harb and cannot hold yard. What we see is a pretty standard push-in from Banny with heals. And Platt starts to back up because he doesn't really have the resources and he's still reloading from setting a trap earlier and also the crits and all that. And Harb tries to follow Platt out running into Banny's stickies. And I think this point can be pretty clearly illustrated by a scene from a film. It was a movie made a while ago. It's not particularly good or accurate. But it was called Enemy at the Gates, and it was about the Russian World War II sniper Vasily Zaitsev. And there's a scene in the film where they have to cross a sniper sight line, and they vote on who goes first, because the guy that'll go first probably won't get shot because nobody has that fast a reaction time. But the guy that goes second probably will get shot, and this is borne out by the following scene. And that's sort of how you want to handle situations like this as medic, because Banny was already shooting at Platinum, and he wasn't about to stop shooting at Platinum, and then Harblu ran forward into the stickies. So as medic, you really want to watch out for situations like that, and Harb really ought to just backed out Z. Things would have been okay. Plus he would have been running into his forward spawns. Harb's death there gives Quantic 50% or more even Uber advantage, with which they're going to push mid, and Mix-Up really won't be able to stop that anytime soon. For Situation 5, we'll be watching Mix-Up hold mid without Uber. Their goal here will be to pop Quantic's Uber as quickly as possible and have everyone get out alive so as to re-push mid very quickly. We already see Harb playing pretty far back, just buffing everybody to give them the largest chance to get out. There's the Uber, it gets popped, Harb is out. Pretty much everybody looks to be getting out. Platt gets a bad bounce, Relic escapes. Platt goes down, TLR goes down to stickies, Moose goes down, Harb has to bail completely. He can't worry about saving anyone else. Here we saw the other way that defenses typically go wrong. In the previous situation, we saw Quantic hold ineffectively because they pushed back in too soon. In this case, we see Mix-Up do exactly what they wanted to do, and then Platt gets unlucky and 2 other players die. And now Mix-Up can't hold mid at all. They can't hold yard at all. Harblue's threatened and he's not charging. And best case scenario, they're going to have to pop their Uber to prevent Quantic from taking second away from them. Harblue does this exactly right, because he knows if he dies at all in the coming seconds or minutes even, Mix-Up loses the round. So he has to play it very selfishly and very carefully. For Situation 6, we'll be watching Mix-Up push mid Uber versus Uber with a player advantage, and we'll be watching TLR. TLR gets accosted by Mackie as soon as he comes through the choke. They do manage to kill Banny, and now they're just going to try and get the Uber pop out, and TLR has to get away. He manages to get launched to this health pack. Tyrone chases him with his Uber and kills TLR. Now we see Harb and Platt trying to push back in. Harb's just trying to heal whoever he can, but Platt goes down, and now Banny's there, and this fight's turning ugly because Banny died at the start of it, and Harb goes down, and Relic will also go down and leave Mix-Up with only 1 player alive. So what happened there was TLR's Uber gets popped really early. He has some nice shots on Mackie there, but Mackie's done his job. Banny goes down too, and it looks like a disaster for Quantic, except for it takes TLR quite some time to get that Uber out, and the Uber disperses Mix-Up rather effectively, and then they sort of just bleed out one by one to the incoming waves of respawning Quantic players, and this is an important point to make about any map in 6s. When you hold mid, you have a spawn advantage because you have a closer forward spawn. So if you're the team holding second and you're pushing mid, you have to push in rapidly and get kills, because their spawns are going to be there much more rapidly than your spawns will be. And that's what you see kill Mix-Up here, is they kill Banny at the start of the fight and he's already back, and he finishes the fight there for Quantic. And it's also important because they don't put any time on mid. 1 player alive to defend second versus 4 Quantic players. They're going to cap second. CB will spawn more quickly than Harblue will. So if they lose anybody at all defending second, they automatically lose the round. And this ultimately ends with Mix-Up losing the round and putting Quantic up 2-0. And before I get too carried away, that'll be the end of this video. I tried to talk about a few minute things that I haven't really covered in any of my other videos, so I hope you found it to be enjoyable and helpful. Until next time, this has been Marxist.